Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to our live show. I'm Chris Angevine, community builder at the Eden Alternative. And today, very excited, we have Susan Ryan, director of the Greenhouse Project, joining us today to talk about small homes and how they've fared better kind of during this pandemic and why. We've really seen the devastating impact of the virus in these elder communities and the challenges that our old systems and these large buildings kind of has presented when we're trying to keep people safe from infection, yet still connected. We know that loneliness and isolation is a huge problem for people trying to live their life with well-being. And then when you add this COVID pandemic on top of it, it takes it to a whole different level. So we're so glad you are here today, Susan.
Well, Chris, I am delighted to be with you. It's always good to be with you and get caught up again.
Love it. Yep. We go back a ways, don't we, Susan?
We do go way back. Yeah. So you know a thing or two about the greenhouse homes as well.
I do. I loved my time I spent in them. It's precious to me. It really is. So great conversation we're looking forward to having, and we want you to participate as well, please. So for anyone joining us live today, please share your thoughts and questions in the comment section. I'll be keeping an eye on those as we continue to chat. But we'd like to hear your perspective and maybe answer any questions you might have. So Susan, how about we start with just tell us a little bit more. Tell us about the Greenhouse Project. Some people may not know.
Sure, absolutely. And I always like to tell the greenhouse story through the core values to really help somebody feel like they're walking into a real home. And that's our first value. And it's what everybody first sees. And that is the physical structure. And that core value is real home, not home-like, but a real home. So instead of just walking straight into the front door, you're going to ring the doorbell and you're going to go into what I call a beautiful open concept hearth area, the heart of the home. So you've got a living room, dining room, open concept kitchen, a nice dining room table where elders can come and have their meals at one table. It is surrounded by private rooms. We have 10 or 12 private rooms with private showers and baths. And so when you think about infection control and think about how important it is to have had that privacy and to be able to not go to a centralized bathing area, but to be able to have their bathing needs met in their own shower within their room. So outside, real home for me means I can get outside each day if I want to. And so access to outside is a part of real home and the physical environment. And even if you're in kind of an urban dwelling and the greenhouse homes go vertically instead of single family, you're still able to, through a screened in porch, be able to really feel the fresh air and get some sun on your face. Perhaps play in the garden, if you will. They have raised beds and flower box container pots on some of the screened in porches that I've seen in greenhouse homes. So that's real home. I think the other thing, and some people will just focus on the small house environment, the physical structure, but I'll tell you it's much more than that. And it really is all about the philosophical culture that goes into that home. And that is really about a meaningful life. And it's a meaningful and a purposeful life. It's about deep knowing relationships. One of my mantras is it's all about relationships. And it's relationship-rich, person-directed living. So often we hear the phrase person-centered care, and everybody says, yep, we're doing it. But how do we know we're doing person-centered care? And can we go beyond person-centered care and to get to that person-directed living so that we're living life, we're focused on a meaningful and purposeful life and not just about our care needs. And then last but not least, it's really about the people that work there and empowered staff. And I say empowered staff is really a function of leadership. And wise leaders who really fully embrace the role of our certified nursing assistants and really making sure they've got the tools, the support, the resources to be successful, to be willing to share power and decision making with those folks, to those working closest to the elder. And that empowerment looks like a versatile worker, meaning this person is not just doing care, but is doing the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, really engaging in activities. And when you think about COVID, if you've got that one person doing all of that, as opposed to laundry staff coming and going, dietary staff coming and going, housekeeping staff coming and going, we've already done a good job of mitigating the infection by controlling the number of interactions in that home. Real home, meaningful life, empowered staff. Those are the three core values. And to me, they really provide that comprehensive picture and magic, if you will, of a greenhouse home.
Yeah, I felt that when I was there. And that is something I love that you spoke to the leadership about that empowered staff, because that is a tough thing to get to. It's a little tough on both sides, right? That's what I found. When people aren't used to being empowered, and when a leader is used to having all the answers and the responsibilities, to really take that in a different direction and saying, you know what, the people doing the work and know the elders the best know what to do. And it's almost a trust factor sometimes.
Trust is the foundation of relationships, and really learning to place belief and trust in the direct care staff to really believe that, of course, they're capable. Of course, they are the ones that are working closest to the elder. And when I really believe that, in fact, that they are worthy of my trust, then different things can happen. And so as a leader, you know, it's all about leadership. It's my other mantra. It's all about relationships, and it's all about leadership, and really leaders that are willing to embrace a new way of thinking and seeing. It's about prioritizing people. And those are the people that work there. And those are the people that are so deserving of our trust and our support in ensuring that they are equipped to be successful in that environment.
So much. I was kind of giggling a little bit to myself, because I remember when we did team scheduling. I don't like to call it self-scheduling, because that's not what it is. It's team scheduling. And, you know, and the whole staff are responsible for it. It's not me, the boss or the scheduler. And I know people have a hard time with that. And I think, who knows the schedule the best? They do. They could tell you all the ins and outs of not only their schedule, but everybody else's schedule. And they know the best way to cooperate together to bring out these great results that really make sure that the house is supported and the elders are supported in that meaningful way through all those different activities. So yeah, that was just one example I just thought of that made me giggle. So
well, a couple things you said was cooperate and team. And I think, you know, that's what it really takes. That's what a team is about. And it's not self-scheduling. I get to choose when I want to work, but it's how do we as a team meet the needs of those that are entrusted to our care. And it's really, again, it's a mindset that needs to shift. Instead of this is what I need, this is what I want, but to really think about the bigger picture. And once again, it's about equipping that team to be successful. And again, empowerment is a function of leadership, and so important that leaders truly understand, embrace, trust, and really embrace the concept that it's important that we share decision making and we share power.
Absolutely. What is the elders' role in the greenhouse homes? What is their involvement? And obviously, I used to say, you know, okay, I was the boss, but we all know who the real boss is. It's the people that live there. But what have you seen? How does that play out in a greenhouse home?
Yeah, well, one of the phrases that we've always talked about is elders rule. I mean, so often they have been just subjected to whatever the organization needs or wants them to do, and they simply must comply with the schedules, the bathing schedules, the eating, what we're eating. And in a greenhouse home, we say, no, if we are talking about person-directed living, then guess who needs to be in the driver's seat? That's the elder. That's the elder who needs to be able to experience the autonomy and the control of how he or she would live their lives. And so that would mean, what time do I get up in the morning? And what will I eat for breakfast? Or maybe it's just a cup of coffee. And what will I do during the day? Is it just the one size fits all activity program where I go and I'm entertained? Or will it be something that is really meaningful and purposeful to me? And I think, it's, once again, it's not that one size fits all mentality, but it really is focused on who that person is and what creates meaning and purpose for that person, and what can we do to enable that person to live his or her life on their own terms. And I think the thing that often pops up, they said, yeah, that's good unless they're living with dementia. And then, we need to kind of be in the driver's seat and kind of tell them what to do. And I beg to differ. I really think the onus is on us to really kind of understand who is that person. And deep knowing relationships will enable me to see, where am I getting a response from an elder that brought joy to that person, where that person is feeling connected. You mentioned well-being. And so it's really understanding who that person is and how do we really support that person to be in well-being. And that's kind of the role of empowered staff, is to really deeply know who each person is as an individual and to recognize that's a person with intrinsic worth. And we will do everything we can to ensure that they're a part of decision making, not the least of which is how they spend their day.
Yeah. You mentioned those deep knowing relationships. I am so with you. I know I've worked in larger places that had maybe 40 elders living in one neighborhood or unit, I guess they would call it. And I think some of the beauty that I saw was smaller is better, because that's what we're talking about. It's so much easier to have deep knowing relationships, right? We talk about consistent assignments. So even in large places, we want the same people to be working with the same people. But in smaller homes, it's more natural because you have that time and you have a smaller amount of people. So what I really saw is it works better for the team, and it works better for the relationships with the families, with the elders. You're not going to fall in love with everybody, but you do get to know each other. And that is so helpful, right?
It really is. You've kind of reminded me of a story. It was really early in my tenure. I've been at Greenhouse for 13 years now. And early in my tenure, I was visiting a greenhouse home. And there was, get this, a 102-year-old woman who had some cognitive impairment for sure. And it was in the afternoon. And you could see she was becoming kind of anxious. And I'm a newcomer and I'm trying to talk to her, engage in conversation with her. Well, there was a Shabazz, as we call them in a greenhouse home, who came up to her and she said, Helen, not her real name, she says, is it time for some ice cream? Would you like some ice cream? And this woman's face lit up. And so she got some ice cream out. Well, when she got the ice cream out, then everybody in the house decided they wanted ice cream. And so it became a spontaneous banana split day, and everybody had banana splits. This was 4:00 in the afternoon. And I thought, I don't know that this would have happened in a larger traditional nursing home. But a couple things. First of all, that this Shabazz was able to, that deep knowing relationship, she knows she's getting anxious and maybe she's hungry and she knows her well enough. I'm thinking ice cream. Not ice cream for everyone necessarily, but in this case, she knew she would like ice cream. And it just kind of created kind of that chain reaction where everybody said, yeah, I think I'd like some too. And it was just a lot of fun, and it was spontaneous, and it felt really good. But again, deep knowing relationships and knowing exactly who that person was and what might bring her joy when she was becoming anxious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really speaks to me about the flexibility and the agility that is there. Because I was just thinking, if something like that happened, we may all agree to have dinner an hour later. And
Right.
it's okay, because we're not dependent on, maybe someone bringing us something, or, we've cooked the meal ourselves, in some situations. And so that just allows for, the flow of the day, right? The rhythm of daily life to be different.
Think about how hard it would be to get some ice cream to serve everybody, to do a spontaneous banana splits for everybody in the
Right.
house. I mean, it's, to have all your food right there. You were able to say, sure, this is what we can do today. It wasn't banana split party on the schedule, their activity schedule. It was just something that happened spontaneously. And again, an elder in the driver's seat, those elders that said, yeah, that's what I want too.
Yeah.
So it was just that beautiful. For me, it just helped to kind of shape what it looked like to have the elder in a driver's seat, what it looked like to see deep knowing relationships operationalized, and to really see the joy that transpired in the entire home, not just in that single person's life.
Great. Let's see, we have a comment over here by Randy. Thank you, Randy. Randy says the power of organic community, it allows for spontaneity and the connections. Love it. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy. I love that.
We have a question from Cheryl. Cheryl was curious, how do we train, educate the staff to take on and share the roles? It is a new way of prioritizing people. It's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, so I also believe that empowerment, you can't fully empower unless you create conditions for empowerment. And one of those conditions is education. And education is big. And education is really making sure that you've equipped everybody with the necessary training that would be important for them to fully understand and embrace their roles. And Chris, I just have to say, when you were at St. John's, I think some of the things when Rebecca Priest and you were there, I just remember so clearly. I learned so much about what you did to operationalize that, and really helping to understand, what is my role? How do we as a self-managed work team embrace a new way of providing care, a new way of supporting the elders in this home? And so really making sure from an education perspective, education was done, but then leadership really helping to operationalize it, make sure there were systems that really occurred. I'm going to share a construct that we use often in our education, and that is beliefs, behaviors, and systems. And until we shift our beliefs and what we believe about long-term care, what we believe about the workforce that supports elders, what we believe about elders, we've got to shift our thinking, deinstitutionalize, destigmatize, and humanize care in our minds first. And then to think about, and what are the behaviors we would expect to see as we've shifted our thinking. And last but not least, what are the systems that will help to support? And I keep bringing up Chris and Rebecca because I thought, when I studied what you all had done there, I found that it was truly, you had created systems and structures. And how are we disseminating information? How do people understand and own their role? How do we support the staff? And how do we hold them accountable to their role? So there were so many things that went together, but again, education's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You have to start there, but it is not the end. With something so new as this, it is really important when you operationalize it, like you said, to have these practices in place. And the Greenhouse Project does a great job with that, of setting up roles for people and really just supporting the staff through them. Because, these people know how to run their own home. They're the CEO, CFO, COO of their household.
That's
a
right.
lot of the time, you know what I mean? And, and it's sad sometimes when I saw in this business that people come to work and they're not valued that way. They have the knowledge. You just go, well, what would you do in your home? I remember we had a piano tuner come in, and I was doing something, but I happened to be in the house. And one of the Shabazz came up to me and she said, Chris, this guy seems to be charging a lot of money to tune the piano. I don't know if I'm that comfortable with it. Would you go talk to him? And I said, let's think about this a minute. Do you need me to go talk to him? What would you say to him if he was in your home and he was a piano tuner? And she goes, well, I would question his prices. I said, well, why don't you go question his prices? She goes, I can do that. I said, of course you can. This is your home.
Um,
Right. So it's that kind of thinking from leadership that you really need. Like
Precisely.
push, Yeah.
And that's exactly what you described. You just gave a perfect example of leadership who fully embraced it, who really saw you place belief and trust in the person that what would you do in your own home? And something else you said that I want to go back to, you said they're the CEOs, COOs of their own home. And so to really understand they're managing their own homes. So that's a belief that you take that belief in and apply it to kind of your work and what the self-managed work team was doing in that home.
Hmm. Yeah. Even if they're not maybe fully in charge of their own home, you know what? They're going to grow skills. And I've had Shabazim tell me this, like, I am such a different person now. Like I have learned these different skills. I've had gentlemen that because of their culture, they never cook. And
Right.
so now they had to learn how to cook, and they're going home and telling their wife what they're doing wrong. That didn't go over well, but learning, it really allows yourself to learn these new skills that you can take outward as well. So yeah, absolutely. So anything else you want to say about that, Susan?
Well, you are reminding me again, there are so many stories when you were talking about gaining skills. And sometimes we think that, it's men that haven't been the ones that have been doing the cooking, but I'll never forget talking to a care partner in Rochester, wasn't Rochester, it was Albany, New York.
Hmm.
And she was terrified after she had gone through culinary training. She was showing up to start cooking in her greenhouse home. And so I was watching her. She said, I've never cooked. And this is kind of a 40-something-year-old woman. She's married, she has children. And I said, it strikes me that you've never cooked before. And she says, I always had my husband do it. And she said, and anything I do is fast food or out of the freezer and into the microwave. And it was so interesting. A year later, when I went back to see her, she was so proud of herself. And she said, guess who's doing the cooking at home now? And she says, and my kids prefer it when I do it. I've had people tell me that for the first time, they were able to bake a cake for their toddler or their child, and to feel such incredible satisfaction, really learning more about budgeting, learning more about computer skills. And when you think about this isn't just a job, but it can be a career. It can be where I'm learning, I'm growing. And as people, it feels good to learn, to grow, and to develop additional skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also love some of the learning that goes on between the elders and the Shabazim and the nurses. I've seen that too, where they're all teaching each other new things. And I've had many elders supervise in the kitchen. And that's just been wonderful, and incorporating family recipes. I've had family members come out and cook their family favorite in the house. And the elders loved it. So we put it on the regular menu. Just so many opportunities that unfortunately you don't have sometimes in these larger institutional buildings and settings. I never believe it's the people. It's not. It's the system and settings that we've
Precisely.
For sure. Yeah.
We're all victims oftentimes of a system that is just perpetuated, just unintentionally, but a warehousing, if you will. I'll tell you a real quick story. We had 9 homes open in Arkansas during the pandemic, and it was actually early this year that they opened. And so they came from a traditional building and filled the whole institutional building. They all moved into those 9 homes. And here's what was really interesting. The elders were saying, we kind of missed that opportunity to gather in the activity room. So again, leadership said, so this is a new way, and we can visit our neighbors here. So
Mhm.
then they started talking about what that really would entail, what that would mean. And they decided to bake cakes. I think they baked some banana muffins. That was somebody's favorite recipe. She says, I'd like to make my muffins and take them over to my neighbor in the next house. And so they really were able to see each other and spend time with each other as neighbors, and to do it in a way that kind of engendered all sorts of memories from what they used to do when they were growing up, and taking something over to the neighbor, and sitting a while and enjoying it together.
Oh, I love that story. During the pandemic too, huh? That must have been huge.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what was super special during the pandemic, to see the amount of social connectedness in a physically distanced way, a safe way, but to be able to, as humans, to be able to have some sort of connections even during the pandemic is pretty darn special. And greenhouse homes afforded some of those unique opportunities, which was great.
Yeah, I know you've kind of been in the spotlight a little bit in a good way
Yeah.
during COVID, and can you share with us a little bit about what has we're talking smaller is better when that comes to the pandemic and infection, that connectedness. What have you seen throughout the last year? What might you share with us?
Yes, so we started collecting data. We started in June, and we worked with a researcher at the University of North Carolina who helped us develop the methodology that was very aligned to the one that CDC and CMS put together. So up until the end of May, nursing homes hadn't been required to submit their data. When it became a requirement for CMS and the CDC, we created our methodology, and we collected data from greenhouse home confirmed cases among elders and mortality rates. And then we compared it month by month through the end of the year, and we're actually continuing to collect it just to see the impact of the vaccines. We wanted to watch the rise and fall during the holidays to see exactly what was happening. Our researchers did an analysis from January 1st to the end of July. In August, we started noticing some variability. There were some homes that said, we're going to dedicate a home to take COVID positive patients that had been in the hospital, and they need a place to rehab. And so we felt that it might skew our numbers and our research. So we just looked at it through July. And in that swath of data, we took a look at comparing it geographically. We wanted to see greenhouse homes in this geographical region. How did that compare to a traditional home of less than 50 beds and a traditional home of greater than 50 beds? If we know smaller is better, did small homes that were less than 50 beds, but still traditional, did they fare as well as a small house greenhouse? And we found out no, greenhouse did significantly better in confirmed cases and in mortality rates. And that has been the case throughout the entire year as we've looked at it. But the researchers really drilled in and took a look at geography and compared it to the homes that were in the same geographical region. Because we know that from research that location, and it was really important to kind of drill down when you saw community surge, what was happening in greenhouse and what was happening in the traditional counterparts. So spectacular research, and obviously as we are trying to think about what we will do differently, when you think about 40% of the deaths in the US have been in nursing homes, that's way too many given the small percentage of people in the US population that live in nursing homes. So we've got to do better. And so media has really taken a look and a fancy, if you will, to greenhouse homes because data has shown that they have done far better. So we're excited to share our research. It was published in JAMDA, and so if you go to our website, thegreenhouseproject.org, you can find the link to that research. and read about the research and to really understand more explicitly what we saw.
Wow. I got to go take a look at it.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. I mean, it's definitely done by some really smart researchers who really drill down to understand it more.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. Being in that setting, I'm so grateful for the time I had in the greenhouse homes. It was just, and I think you said the word magic. To this day, we all still kind of look back at it, the crew that we had there, and just like wow, we really had something. It's just, it's something I'm so proud to be a part of. I'm not proud in a sense of I did this, because that's not what it's about. Like, as a leader, I created or I did this. No, that's so much not that. It's what we did together. And
Right.
I love working with the Eden Alternative, and what a great team we have. And I feel that with this team, but I never really felt it anywhere else as much as I did there. And I love the sense of empowerment and sharing, and what you can create with that smaller. So just so many good memories and so many stories, right, Susan?
It's so true. And, I think we all we want to be connected to a purpose, to be a part of something that's bigger than we ourselves, than I myself could do alone. I want that connection, and you described it well, to, work with the team to make a difference and to be connected to something that we are now 359 homes in 32 states. So that feels good. And yet, I know my work is not yet done. I know there's more to do, and we'd love to see this become the model, the prototype for nursing homes across the country.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I hope, let's see if anybody, we have a comment from Joyce, she's, Small is Beautiful is one of my favorite books. We had put that in the description of the show today. So thanks, Joyce, for joining us today and chiming in. If anybody else has any questions for Susan, or please put it in the chat box. And Susan, is there anything you would like to share with us? I don't even know, that you've heard. Like, is there any challenges or triumphs or kind of lessons learned that you've heard about from the homes during this time that we might share with others, so maybe they can gleam onto something?
Sure. Well, I guess, I would say I go back to the core values, and I think size matters. And in this case, smaller is better. Anything that we can do to really try to create more distinct neighborhoods, smaller units, and really keep that dedicated staff going in and out. Relationships matter. And I think, the more we can have consistency and dedicated teams of people working with the same people, I think we will achieve better results. I think, sometimes we throw our hands up and say, well, I don't have a greenhouse, so I can't do anything. No, you can.
Mhm.
And I think, we just have to figure out, what can you do? What did you hear today that you can take back and immediately implement? And there must be something, even if it's something that you heard and you will think and do differently. And, who might you have some influence with? And how might you be able to influence the current paradigm in which you are working right now? There's always something you can do. And then I guess I'd have to say, Chris, join our podcast. We'd love to have you listen in on Elevate Elder Care. It's our podcast, and I tell you, I talk to a lot of smart people. And when you, Chris, say, I'm so proud of that time, it's not what I do, it's what really, really smart people are doing and their insights. I think we're better together as we really work to support each other, and we really listen and learn from different perspectives and figure out what will we all do, the power of we, to kind of make the world better, and to really reimagine long-term care and build upon what we have learned through the pandemic.
Yeah. Thank you, Susan. We have a comment here from Cheryl again. Thank you. Definitely, we want to be connected to a purpose, something that is bigger than ourselves, and to make a difference. Yeah, I never thought I'd be here in this field, but I wouldn't be anywhere else. This is the most meaningful work. And keep that voice of the elder elevated. You just said elevate with your podcast, but that made me think of it, right? Because that's where it's coming from. I know hearing people, what their wants are, what their desires are, that is really at the heart of, I think, what we do. So just different ways of doing it. So great. I love being here today with you. Any final thoughts or comments?
Well, I guess I'm known for little mantras here and there, but I think this year we kind of settled on a theme that's go beyond better. And so I would say push against the status quo that settles for good enough and go beyond better. And I think it's an individual call to action for all of us. And I think when you push against the status quo, it takes courage and it takes tenacity and persistence. So let's keep doing it together. And I believe that we will create the world that we envision that really does seek at its core to elevate elder care, or I would even say elevate elder living.
Yeah. Go beyond. One last question just came in. Thank you, Laura. Hi, Susan. I came in late today, but wanted to ask, are you willing to share one thing that has really surprised you over the last year?
That's a great question. I guess I'd hate to. So, truth be told, in March of 2020, I was at a conference and I made a comment as people were freaking out. It was actually, I happened to be in Atlanta, and the former President Trump was at the CDC, and everybody was up in arms about COVID and what we were going to do. And nursing homes, the Kirkland experience had happened. And I made a comment. I said, I believe greenhouse homes were made for this moment. Our conference theme, had we had a conference last year, was ready for impact, not having a clue that we would be talking about a pandemic and the onslaught of the coronavirus. And I have to say that in my core, when I said that, I believed it. And yet, when Laura said, was there something that surprised you? And it was, I don't think that surprised me that the greenhouse homes fared so well. I think what did surprise me is I had no idea how long the pandemic would go on. I really kept thinking that, by summer, we'll be back to normal. And certainly by the fall, we'll be back. So I guess if there's anything that surprised me, it was how long it went on. And I would say even now, that with vaccines out as they are, and I'm so grateful for the vaccines that they're out there, and they were distributed first to nursing homes where we needed them the most. I think we can't use that as a panacea and to say, okay, now we can go back to normal. So it's not a surprise, but I think that's our propensities to, go back to that status quo and to seek that place that feels like it's our comfort zone. And that would be, let's not do that. And even with the vaccine, let's not let down our guard. Let's continue to mask up. Let's be careful. Let's be prudent about who and where and how we meet. The weather's getting better in most places in the country. So let's try to do more things outside and really work to build our immune systems by getting the fresh air, the sunshine, and all those things that bring joy, staying connected to people.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for we have a couple, thank you. Great presentation. And thanks so much. Excellent insight, Susan. Thank you again so much for being here with us. I always just love being with you, and I always learn as well. So I really appreciate today. So thank you. And I'm sure we'll talk to you soon. Thanks to everybody who joined us. And if you're joining us a little bit after the fact, feel free to put your comments or questions in there, and we'll be looking back at this show and getting some answers to you if you need anything. And don't forget to check out the Greenhouse Project at their website. Okay. Everybody have a great day. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Chris.
Bye, Susan.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.